Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show, it's about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Perry Mason. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Obviously, let's start off with the whole Alice situation, which I think is kind of fascinating. Obviously, like her proclamation last episode about she's going to bring Charlie Dobson back. You know, he's going to rise again. Obviously has led to many different things. Some people, her supporters, having her back, believing in her, while others have turned her back on her and it's like, oh, you're blasphemous. And now it's led to a situation where people that are kind of the higher ups in this whole thing are turning their back on her. Like Baggerly, he is saying like, oh, and it's so interesting because he's using this Emily situation because it's like my son's harlot of a wife, and you know, so he's saying like basically trying to say like women are so erratic and you know it's like unstable, so it's like he's like, I'm not gonna let all this get taken down by another erratic woman, essentially, because it's like all of Alice's proclamations are gonna burn, because at the end of the day it seems like they're looking at, because they're like, oh, like the money that you know keeps this organization going. It's like, no, you're worried about your own pockets. Your pockets are getting lined with this whole situation, and it's like Alice's proclamations are screwing up the money flow for you. And it's like they try to put their spin on it and be like, oh, we're God-fearing men, but it's like, no. Even him Baggerly bringing up the fact he's out 100,000. It was about rescuing your grandchild, but I guess at the end of the day it's like, well, it didn't happen anyway. But it always seems like it goes back to money for them. And now they want Alice to kind of basically take a step back. And her mom was like, the fact of the matter is, like, because even the doctor's like, she shouldn't be working as much as she is. Like, obviously, this isn't her first, seizure. She's had them before, but her mom's like, she's always come back from them stronger than ever. So it's like, but he's like, I recommend she takes a break. But she's like the face of all of this. So if she takes a break, like, things start kind of slowing down. So they want Alice to kind of take a step back from her statement as well. But for her, it's like, I can't help what I feel and what I see. Like, she feels like God but her mom is like, it's just us here. So for her, I think she still kind of looks at it as like, I get it, you're performing. You don't have to perform around me, baby. It's just me here. So, but it's like, the sad thing is that her mom looks at it as a bit of a performance too. But for her, it is much more than that. She's like, it's not, I'm sorry that I see and hear God. Like, the fact of the matter is, but she believes what she believes. But at the same time, it is a thing of like, yeah, listen to those people out there singing. Half of them love you, want to take care of you. The other half want to kill you. The little girl earlier with her family showing up with a box of snakes and everything. So it's just like, it's a complicated situation. So she kind of gives way to what her mom wants. So she's trying to make a statement, but the people are like, I can't hear you, because she's not as boisterous as she normally is. Like, she's usually loud and just like, she rocks the room, you know? But like this time, like, obviously she kind of has to submit a little bit. And so she's, you know, like, I'm sorry. She has to say like, my arrogance, my pride, and all this. It's just, and you can't help but hold on to that, because you're just like, those sounds like lines that not necessarily you believe. They're sounding like lines that literally guys are like, yeah, your pride, your sinfulness. It's like, obviously because she was reading a script anyway, but still, it's just like, you can feel those not being her words. I mean, that's why she's so like melancholy when she's speaking it, you know? But then that guy comes over and he's like, these are blankets for, you know, young Dobson when he comes back and he's cold. And for that moment, it sparked something inside of her, because it's like, so there are people who believe, you know, it's like, I'm up here doubting myself because everyone else is doubting me. She's like, no, on Easter Sunday, he's going to come back. So her mom's pulling her away. The crowd is erupting. There are those who are like, yes, yes, yes. Other people like, no, blasphemous. One of the dudes from the church is blasphemer, which is like, oh, look at you going with the tides of things. It's like, once again, it's like hard to say whether or not you are really like, oh, she's a blasphemer, or you're like, I got to go with the crowd because I gotta stand fast in my beliefs. So like, oh, damn that Sister Alice, she's so blasphemous. Yeah, I'm on your side, you know, or whether he wholeheartedly believes that or not. I don't know. So there's that complicated angle to this whole situation as well. Obviously, Perry and Pete are looking heavily into this whole, they're investigating, because I love they brought Virgil along. He's like, oh, we're gonna have fun and everything. He's like, oh, he's drinking a little bit, and then they end up, and they love to, he'd be like, oh, what are you guys bringing me here for? He's like, is it pornography? And they're looking almost like, why would you jump to that? He's just talking about basically because about their stories about what they end up investigating and stuff like that, like affairs and stuff like that, like because they handle things on that more, I guess, illustrious side of things, I guess, in his eyes. But he's like, no, and he's even talking about like he went on this weird tangent where he was talking about like sometimes people, guys wishing that they were, of only a few inches so they could fit inside of a woman's pocket, and Pete and Perry are looking at him like, what? So I love that whole thing, and then they show him. Because they show him the body and everything, and he's like, that took me by surprise. I didn't expect them to steal George's body. I should also note, because I was just looking at IMDb, I didn't know Aaron Stanford played George. I have to go back and look at him because I didn't catch that. If you don't, like I said, that's just based on what I was reading on IMDb. That's crazy. If you don't know, that's the actor who played Cole on the show 12 Monkeys. I was like, holy shit, what? How did I not recognize that was you? Like, I mean, to be fair, we only got like one good look at George. Before everything kind of went down, but it's just like probably if I went back and watched the first episode, I'll probably catch up like, oh, that totally is George, isn't it? Or look at the like pictures or whatever the case may be. Tangents aside and all that, but Virgil's like, no, you stole the body. He's like, this could be criminal and stuff like that, and but obviously for them it's like, no, this shows that George wasn't, he didn't kill himself. The fact of the matter is this was staged, and we need you to investigate. But Virgil does it. And I love later on, like, there's a body found on the golf course. It didn't correlate to mine. I was like, who's that? What's this so about? And then, like, the body shows up, and then the dude moves it, and Virgil's flipping out. He's like, those sons of a bitches. I was like, that's effed up and funny in a very dark way, because it's like, oh, they dumped his body in public, so Virgil would have no choice. They put it in his jurisdiction too, so that he'd have no choice but to be the one to have to do the autopsy. So this kind of works out for them, and he even brings it. Perry brings this up to EB about the fact of the matter is because we're doing this, now we get that second autopsy because like none of this is lining up. They believe there is a fourth guy involved in all of this, like that obviously whoever it was is the one that went after George and everything, which EB's kind of like, okay, and it's like, well, will Drake, confirm all this? It's like, well, he's not going to say anything. The cops already got to him. They're kind of, but it's like, we don't know who the fourth guy is, but give us time. We're going to figure that out. So EB takes this situation because there's also the whole thing I'm skipping over at the very beginning where Dilla is talking to him about the whole thing, and it's like, how they're going to approach this whole Emily thing, trying to get her out. It's like getting her out is one thing because this thing is also kind of fault in the public, which obviously once again the correlations you can make between present day and past in the past, but it also is a public opinion type of situation too, because like everyone is already made it up in their mind, Emily's guilty already, and so the fact of the matter, and that was even something Dilla says later on, it's like, it sucks because yes, she had an affair, who cares, but the fact of the matter is, she's like, literally, if people had their way, they would stone her right now, like, she's guilty just because it's like, oh, she had an affair, she's a terrible human being, or like, everyone believes they've got it all set in stone. Hell, even Matthew is letting his dad convince him, because it's like, yeah, she slept with the dude that's involved. Let's not forget the reason why this happened is because of who you really are. Like, I mean, maybe they've gone over this and maybe I missed it. I guess Emily must have known. And so I guess they were thinking like, oh, Emily's with George. But it's like, it could just as easily been a thing of maybe George got with Emily for that purpose. Maybe he got close to Emily so he could get close to Matthew. Maybe that's kind of the thing here. But that's the thing. But it's sad because it's like, she gets the brunt of all of this, and that's Delia's aspect of it. It angers her that like it's like who you fuck shouldn't matter. Why should that be literally what's going to send her to being executed? Like what's going to be her death sentence? Especially because cops were beating the crap out of her to get a confession, which even EB was like, we can't really do too much with that right now because it's like, and he even jokes, he's like, oh, cops investigating cops, right? It's like because it's like that's not a very unbiased situation because obviously they're going to close ranks and obviously not once again correlation you could make, but he does try to bring this up to the judge. The DA for him, he's saying like, oh, they've got more evidence because Matthew's now going to testify against her, and it's like it was such a strong front because once again he's letting his dad talk to him. He's convinced because I think this is a byproduct of the fact of the matter is Matthew is close with his dad now. His dad wasn't there for a majority of his life, but it's like it's almost like, oh, like my dad's going to lead me down the right path, especially because my wife, oh, she lied, she had an affair, like she's a terrible person, she slept with the dude that eventually was responsible for killing our son. So it's like I think it comes down to that, and so I think that's why he's letting his opinions kind of get swayed so much. I think in some way he is almost like thinking that maybe this will fill some of that gap between him and his father. Like I said, I'm probably reading too much into it, but it's just like the fact is that he's now working with the DA, and even like EB was completely blindsided about it. He's like, wait, what? I didn't know about this. But it's like she's going to be put in protective custody, but the bail is still going to be like the large amount that it was, so they're kind of screwed on that front. EB tried to take all the stuff that Perry and Pete had gotten to use as leverage against the DA, but throwing all this at him, and he doesn't budge. In fact, he actually counters everything EB brings up by bringing up stuff from EB's clients and stuff like that, saying like, oh, you moved some money around. He's like, no, I didn't steal money from my clients. I returned every penny. It's like, yes, but the fact is, as a lawyer, you allocated that money. He's like, yes, and literally, he's like, everyone's guilty of it. Like, it was because of like, the recession and everything. It's like, because this is after the Great Depression and everything. So for him, it's like a lot of people lost a lot of money. And the fact of the matter is he was trying to move stuff around, because he'd actually tried to talk about it. Like, he actually went to the bank early in the episode trying to get a loan, but they wouldn't even give him a $25,000 loan just because the money in his savings account is being used to help the business. Like, the business is going on, or even Dylan's like, why didn't you tell me? He's like, because it's none of your damn business, because it's not yours, it's mine. So it's a situation of like he's going under. So this Baggerly thing was that's why it hit him harder, like losing that, because he needed that money to keep everything afloat, because he's just kind of flying by the seat of his pants in his situation, sadly. But now basically the DA is threatening him, being like, oh, so you have three choices. You can either try and take this in court, you can get her to basically take a plea, or you could let this all come out and you'd be disbarred. So it's like, you have until Friday. And it's like, that's ruffling, EB's feathers to the point he blows up at Dilla, because he's looking at certain files, because he's trying to find out, like, what could the DA have against me to kind of use against me like that. And he's just kind of like, the fact of the matter is, you should be doing like, this is your job and everything. Like, do your damn job. And she's like, what are you talking about? Those motions that were filed, that was because of me. She's basically like, I'm the backbone of this. Yes, your name might be on that damn door, but so is mine. I'm the associates. That basically none of this works without me. You play your part, but I do my damn job. Don't ever depreciate what I do. Like, I do a lot for you, and I do a lot for this association. And so she just like gets pissed and leaves, and she even leaves him to his own vices. I mean, once again, it's sad because we can tell, like, it seems like, I think it's just a situation of age, and it just seems like EB just naturally isn't all there. Like I said, he's very forgetful and stuff like that, because because him and the judge were talking about the fact is earlier. It's like, oh yeah, that guy. It's like, oh yeah, because the dude's like 90, so he's retiring soon. But like EB's like, I've got 16 years on him. I'm good. Like, I'm not old. I'm not dead. I'm not dead yet. But I think all of this is just compounded itself on top of him. So when Perry's there, when he's there with Perry later on, he's reminiscing a little bit. It's like, well, how old were you when we first met? And the fact is of like, telling the story a little bit about how him and Perry's dad met. Like, Perry's dad like came into EB for help and stuff like that. And I think it kind of got EB a little, what would be the word, reflective on his life and everything, and it's just kind of like, because literally everything he's worked for, his reputation, his name, his livelihood, is all about to be taken from him. I mean, he's already struggling on the financial side. Now, like, his name is going to be run through the mud. So what does he do? He goes to Emily and he starts suggesting, like, maybe you take this plea deal. He's like, I could get you 20. He's like, I get it. You did nothing wrong, but it doesn't matter to so many people whether you actually did something or not. So she's like, you want me to just give up? And he's stammering because he sees the look in her eyes, and he doesn't want her to give up hope, because he knows, he's like, deep down, I know you did nothing wrong. Just because of this affair thing, like, people are going to look at you a certain way. And EB's kind of going along with it until he just says, you know what? No, I want you to fight. You're going to keep fighting. You're never going to give up. And she's like, I won't. And it's like, you're going to be fighting there with me. And the reluctance in his voice made go, what's that about? And we see it later on, because EB's like, he's in his house and he's getting stuff prepared. And then I'm like, what is he doing? I was getting nervous because he's in his suit. He's moving the chair. I'm like, are you about to? I was like, and he starts flipping the gas on. I was like, you're about to kill yourself. And it seems like that's what he does, because I think for him it's just because too much. I think for him it's like, I can't be the person to represent Emily because of what's going to come out. It's going to screw her over too. So might as well take myself out of the picture just because I'm too old. I'm already past my point. The fact of the matter is there's not much I can do anymore. So and someone else needs to kind of pick up the fight. That's why he was so adamant about her keep fighting, and why he was reluctant about, yeah, I'll be by your side. Like, he's like, I'm going to do right by you is what he was going to say. And I think for him, it's like removing himself from the equation because the DA is going to use it to get. I mean, because obviously the DA still did get back to Kids Corner because he talked to like Enos and Homecomb about like, why the hell am I just hearing about this fourth guy? Like, you guys had 3 days to investigate, but they're like, no, like Mason's full of crap. He's, but it's like, you better hope that he is, because there's still something to this because for him it's still not as aces as he wanted it. He wants it to be clear cut. The fact of the matter is that there's holes in this situation. Doesn't look good because it's his reputation on the line, and it's like, I'm not about to get out there and be made a fool of because it turns out that there was something more to this, like Evie and Mason were saying, So I just thought that was kind of an interesting, element to all of that. But it's sad to see, like, Evie going down this route. Now, I don't know. Like, part of me's hoping, like, is someone going to get to him in time to be like, is Dillo or, Perry going to get to him in time? Like, I mean, why would they know to go there? Not unless Dillo's like, all right, I'm going to check on him, and ends up finding him like that. I don't know. Maybe not. This just might be, once again, I think in his mind, it's like, he's telling Emily to keep fighting, but I think for him, it's like in his own mind, it's like, I can't keep fighting because I'm literally backed against the wall, and this is the only thing I can do for me and for Emily, So, that's sad in the grand scheme of things. Another angle to this I thought was kind of interesting was the whole Lupe and Perry situation. Kind of Perry talking a little bit about his family. The fact that, well, for one, he got that guy he was like, him and Pete were investigating the first episode. That dude tracked Perry down and beat the shit out of him while Perry was on the phone with his son, no less. That's sad. But nevertheless, she's talking to Perry about just kind of selling the farm, his house again. But for him, it's like, if he sells it, for him, it's like the Masons will disappear. For example, like what the situation is, because it's like, this was his family's home. He's like, this bed right now, this is a red room I shared with my brother. This is actually his bed we're sleeping on right now. And one day he just left and never came back. His parents died. The fact of the matter is, this is where him and his wife lived. They had their son here, so there's a lot of Mason history here that he feels like if he died and this place went to someone else, it's almost like the Masons never existed, so it's almost just kind of, but like Lupe was kind of getting to the point of like saying like, well, yeah, like you no longer exist, like none of that matters, like who you were just disappears the moment you die, because that's all there was. Like you're here, when you're going, and so, but Perry starts throwing out, like, what if, like Sister Alice said, kind of bringing you back. And she's like, no, about that. He's like, even if it meant bringing up the fact is that someone bringing justice to the person who killed you, but I think for Lupe, it's still just that thing of just kind of like, she's saying that basically there are just some things you're not supposed to know. Like, you're not supposed to cross that line and come back. It's not how things kind of work, So I just thought that was kind of like a fascinating conversation between the two of them. But obviously, like I said, Pete and Perry are continuing their investigation because they're trying to figure out, like, all right, so how did this whole thing work? Because whoever it was, like, obviously we know there are the 3 guys that got away. Like, they're the ones that were driving in the car. They crashed and bounced. So it's like, so who could have had enough time to slip back here, grab the money, and bounce without really kind of being noticed? Because it's like they planned this out enough that like doing that would jeopardize their plan and everything. Because like immediately Emily was calling for the police immediately, so it's like you wouldn't have had time. But then there's a back way. But then they also see like, wait, there's connecting to like this other like group that's there, and it turns out Detective Enos is part of said group because his daughter's a part of it. And then Perry and Pete run into him. It's like, oh, we see a familiar face here. So it's like Perry's associating him being like, he's like, oh, so were you here that night? He's like, I don't know. Why don't you check and stuff like that? He's like, he's like, I've run across enough, detectives in my, terrible dicks like you in my time. Enos is like, you're trying to get me on a hook, but you only hooked your own ass. He's like, no, I'm not stupid enough to think, anything. But he's just kind of like, he makes his own donation, and it's like, oh, I hope she has a happy trip. So it's like, Enos is just kind of like, well, damn it, now he knows. Which also, once again, brings up the point, how much does his partner know? Like, how much does Holcomb know? Because it seems like maybe he doesn't know, because anytime Enos is off doing some dirty shit, it's just him by himself. But then again, Holcomb and him were the ones that kind of pushed Drake to be like this, but it could be they just wanted the investigation shut. But then like going and meeting with like the captain or whatever behind closed door makes it seem like I said, he's involved in all of this. The question keeps coming up though, what was the purpose of all of this? I mean, obviously, the point of the money and everything was to kind of throw them off trail, but that was just because, like, well, things kind of went wrong, severely wrong, and this is going to go sideways, so let's give them all the people they need. Oh, here's the 3 people involved, not realizing there's a 4th man making himself disappear, but obviously, he's connected in a larger scale to all this. It's a large-scale conspiracy, and the question then becomes, like, who's involved, to what extent, like, what was the reason all of this was accomplished for? Was it just purely for the money? Was there a deeper reason? Or the deeper reason simply a byproduct of things going wrong with the money situation? I'm very interested to ultimately see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, love life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good